What's up, guys? Back again with another video today, and we're going to talk about today how to resolve conflict when recording is a struggle. Now, I don't know if any of you guys have been in a studio session before where there's a lot of things that can come up that can hinder the creative flow of a studio session. Like the artist doesn't like how she sounds, he or she or they sound, or you're not getting sound, or there's a bunch of technical issues that could come up, or there's a bunch of emotional issues that could come up. You know, maybe you are not agreeing on how the song should go or on the direction of the song, or you're not agreeing on the arrangement, or any of these things could happen from a technical or an emotional standpoint. So I'm just going to go over some things that I've personally experienced and give you some remedies to these situations and ensure that hopefully your next session will go as smooth as possible, and just give you a list of possible things that could come up so you can be ready for it and you can know how to deal with it better. So without further ado, let's get into it. Alright guys, so we're here in my vocal recording template. This is my template that I use to record vocalists. So I guess the best way to resolve conflict in the recording process is to avoid it in the first place, right? So just being prepared and having your session prepped and ready to go for your artist is going to go a long way. So first of all, the first thing you're going to do is definitely bounce out your instrumental to a separate track and record vocals in a separate session than your instrumental, because your CPU is going to go crazy. Like, it doesn't matter if you're in an expensive studio, if you have a nice computer, it doesn't matter. I guarantee you that your computer's going to have trouble recording vocals with your instrumental going on at the same time and all the plugins running. It's just a bad recipe. So always bounce out your instrumental. See, like I have here, I just have the 2-track of the instrumental. And a lot of times what I end up doing during the recording process is turning down the instrumental, like, a lot, because vocalists typically like to hear themselves very loud in the mix. And so you can either do that with, if you have a headphone mix, if you're recording in a studio, in an actual studio, or if you're just at home. A lot of the times I just turn down the instrumental a lot because it doesn't matter. It's just a guide track. It's just a guide track. So you can turn it down as much as you want until the vocalist feels like they can hear themselves and they're comfortable with the level that the instrumental is at. So that's number one. Number two is latency. So this happened actually when I was recording with Carrie Kathleen. For Weird Like Me, we had some latency issues. We were recording and there was a delay between her singing and it coming back, and it affected her singing. So I figured out that it was actually my buffer size. And so your buffer size is whatever DAW you're in, it's going to be in preferences. And so when I'm mixing and producing, I usually keep my buffer size at the highest possible at 2048. But when you're recording, this is going to cause a lot of latency. So I usually like to bring it down to like 128 or even lower. But if you get lower, that you might have some clicks and pops in the recording, which is not good. So start at 128 and see if that works, if that cures the latency issues, and it usually should. 128 or 256 should be good enough. So you record on this setting. And the last thing that might come up is that the artist, you know, if you want the artist to give a confident performance and give the best performance she possibly can, you want her to be confident. In order for them, he or she, I don't know why I keep saying she, but if you want them to be confident, you need to make sure that they sound good going in. Like, even though like you're recording and obviously it's not mixed yet, but there's still some things that you can do to make them sound, their vocals sound cleaner on the way in, so they can deliver their performance with more confidence. So what I have is I have my template set up. So I just have a track that simply has auto-tune on it. Every track just has auto-tune on it on a low setting, right? Not unless there's someone who likes that auto-tune T-Pain type of sound, but no matter what, I usually have it on a low setting, like a slow retune speed, and humanize up in the key of the song so that they'll sound more in tune and they'll be more confident with their vocals that way if they're singing. And then I have that going into a main vocal bus, which has this EQ on it. This EQ I stole it from one of my friends who was like an engineer at a studio that I used to work at. But basically, if you guys want to just copy this EQ, this is, I find, a really good EQ to just have the vocals lock into place and have a good starting point for when you're just recording. So it's like, I'll flash over these points so you can copy it. So it's like 37 hertz, low cut, 114 hertz, low shelf, 196 bell, 850 bell, 2540 bell, and yeah, that's pretty much it. So it's basically just taking out a lot of the low end and making it so, and because that's where you're gonna get a lot of the boominess and resonances out, and it just makes the vocals sound cleaner on the way in. And similarly, I also have a compressor on the way in, just compressing a little bit, not too much, but it also just helps the vocal lock into place, having a little compression on the way in. But the reason I use this specific compressor, this RVox, is because it has a gate on it. And what the gate allows you to do is, if you have the gate, I usually keep it at around 36. You don't have to use this compressor. You can just use a regular gate, like your DAWs just has a stock gate probably. But this compressor allows you to do compression and gating at the same time. And what gating does, without getting too much into the details, is basically whenever the volume drops below a certain threshold, it just slams it down. So it basically mutes it. So when the vocalist is performing and there's like maybe background noise, or there's breaths in between words, or breathing, or background noise, or anything that you don't want, right? Because you just want the pure vocal, right? You don't want really like the breaths or the background noise, or her shifting, or like her clothes rubbing against her jewelry or whatever. Like, so this will allow you to like set a threshold that everything below this volume level will just get cut out completely. That's what gating is, and it'll help you get a much clearer and cleaner vocal signal coming in. So definitely do that. So I have basically just a track with auto-tune on it, and then, you know, every time we do a take, I'll just duplicate the track for the next take. So I'll just have the same track with auto-tune on it, and then all the tracks are going to be going into this bus right here, which has the EQ and the compressor with the gate on it. So that'll definitely help you, you know, your recording sessions go a lot smoother, and that'll help you have a lot smoother vocal and going into it, and just having a clean vocal, no matter where you're recording, in a studio or in a bedroom. So now that we've talked about the technical side of it, I want to just talk about the emotional side of it, because that's arguably an even more important part. So I'll be right back to talk about that. What's up, guys? So I just want to talk about the emotional side of recording as well, and just having a good relationship with the artist that you're recording with, because this is how you avoid a lot of conflict, right? Because you don't want to be resolving conflict. You kind of want to be avoiding it in the first place. I'm going to talk about resolving conflict too, but I'm going to talk about some ways that you can avoid it in the first place. So on the emotional side, we talked about the technical stuff that you can do, but just making sure that the artist is in a welcoming environment, right? Like maybe have some lights that change colors, set a vibe for the recording. You know, if it's at night, maybe put some lights on inside, dim the lights, put some colored lights. If it's daytime, maybe open up the shades, get some daylight in there, make it a little brighter in the room. You know, obviously talk to them, ask what they're feeling, what their vibe is, and have some water available for them, have some tea. You know, what's funny is I used to work at a recording studio as an intern, and every time a vocalist would come in, whether it was a rapper, whether it was a pop singer, and it was some pretty big name people that came to record there, you know, I mean, I'm not gonna like name drop people, but like some big name people came in, and, you know, I saw them. So as an intern, my job was to do the tea setup. Every time the vocalist would come in, no matter what, no matter if it was a rapper or pop singer, we would always have to have a tea setup. And so I would have to get the hot water jug and get all these different types of tea bags out and cups, and put it on a table in the vocal recording booth right next to the microphone. So I eventually learned how to make a mean cup of tea after working there. But the point is, have some beverages there, hot tea, especially for vocalists. Like it warms up their vocal cords, and it's really good for them. So learn how to make a tea. Learn how to make a good cup of tea. Honestly, this is a good tip. And just maintain a good relationship with the artist. You know, like be able to have an open dialogue, and also that includes pushing back as well. Like when they're recording and they do a take, and they say, oh, I think that's good, but you think that they could do better, and that they could do better, then push back and say, hey, you know what, I think that we could do that better. Like let's do that again. And most of the time they'll appreciate that. Like honestly, like I have never been in a situation where I pushed back on an artist and they were like, oh no, what do you mean? Like that was the best I could ever do. Like what do you mean? Well, I don't want to do it again. No, that doesn't happen. Like 100% of the time they're always like, oh yeah, I think you're right. Let's try it again. And you and the artist are partners in creating this song. I mean, you might think, oh, this is her song or whatever, and I'm just producing it. But no, the truth is, they couldn't create the song without you, and vice versa. You couldn't create the song without them. So you guys have to consider yourself partners in creating the song, right? And so don't be apathetic and just do whatever the artist says. And oh, the artist says it's good, so it's good. I don't care. I'm just a producer. No. That's not how we do it. You gotta have an open dialogue. Don't be afraid to push back on an artist, and have an open dialogue about the direction of the song. Be able to make compromises, because the song's not gonna, in a collaboration, turn out exactly the way you want, and not gonna turn out exactly the way they want. You gotta make compromises in order to just create the best product that you guys both like the most. And the final thing I would say is just know when to call time out, right? Like as the producer, you kind of control the flow of how things are going. And if you see that like they're getting discouraged and not being able to get a part, or you've been taking like 50 takes to the same part and you just see that it's not really working, just take a break. Just say, hey, let's take a 5-10 minute break, whatever, go get out of the studio, take a walk, get some tea. This will really help you, and you can come back in 10-20 minutes with a fresh perspective and see what's going on. These are the best tips that I've learned throughout my time and as an engineer and as a producer. This will really help you just create the best possible product and the best possible song that you can. So thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace out.